the Ghoul of Badiat al-Khali. My name is Adam, and I want to share with you a bone-chilling tale that still haunts my every waking moment. It happened to me deep in the desolate heart of the Arabian Peninsula, in the unforgiving expanse of Badiat al-Khali, the empty quarter. I was 29 years old at the time, a seasoned adventurer in search of rare artifacts and ancient treasures. My journey began in the small town of Abha, nestled amidst the lush green mountains of southwestern Saudi Arabia. I had heard whispers of a hidden tomb, a place untouched by time, rumored to hold riches beyond imagination. Determined to differentiate myself from other treasure hunters, I embarked on a perilous quest into the heart of the desert. For days, I ventured deeper into the arid wasteland, my camels carrying supplies dwindling as the merciless sun beat down upon us. My determination to succeed and my thirst for self-improvement pushed me forward. As I reached the remote dunes of Al-Rub al-Khali, I set my eyes on a peculiar rock formation that locals referred to as the jaws of the desert. The setting sun cast eerie shadows, making the place feel otherworldly. It was there, amidst the shifting sands, that I first encountered the malevolent presence that would haunt my nightmares. I made camp near the rock formation, my excavation equipment at the ready. The night descended like a shroud, and as I dug deeper into the tomb, a sense of unease crept over me. The air grew cold, and I could feel eyes upon me, unseen but undeniably present. Hours passed, and my flashlight flickered ominously. Just as I was about to abandon the dig and return to the safety of civilization, I heard it. A haunting, guttural laughter that chilled me to the core. It emanated from the surrounding darkness, and I could sense the presence drawing nearer. Terrified and paralyzed with fear, I switched on my flashlight one last time and saw a sight that defied reason. Emerging from the shifting sands were grotesque, skeletal figures, their bony limbs resembling that of emaciated humans. Yet their eyes glowed with an unnatural hunger, and their forms contorted with an unholy glee. In that moment, I realized I had stumbled upon the ghouls of Arabian lore, the ghouls themselves. They took on the form of hyenas as legends had foretold. With their eyes locked onto me, they closed in, their laughter growing louder, echoing in the vast emptiness of the desert. Panicking, I fled from the tomb, leaving my equipment behind. The ghouls pursued me relentlessly, their sinister cackles ringing in my ears. My survival instincts kicked in as I raced through the dunes, but the desert seemed to stretch on endlessly. By some miracle, I stumbled upon an ancient well, and with the last of my strength, I descended into its depths, praying that it would provide sanctuary. The ghouls circled above, their laughter fading into the distance as they were unable to reach me. Days passed in that dark well, and I could hear them pacing above, waiting for me to emerge. Eventually, a group of nomads found me, and with their help, I escaped the ghouls' clutches. They told me stories of the cursed tomb, warning me never to return. Now, I sit here, a changed man. My quest for riches had nearly cost me my life, but it had also granted me a story that few would ever believe. I share it with you, Adam, in the hope that my tale serves as a warning to those who seek to differentiate themselves in the most perilous of pursuits. In the heart of the desert, the ghouls of Badiat al-Khali wait, hungry for those who dare to disturb their slumber.
The Haunting of Hollowbrook House. My name is Emily, and I will never forget that fateful night in Hollowbrook, a small, picturesque town in the heart of New England. I was 18 years old at the time, eager to earn some extra money by babysitting for the Peterson family. Little did I know that this seemingly ordinary evening would become a tale of terror that still haunts me to this day. The Petersons lived in a quaint, two-story colonial house at the end of Elm Street. It was a chilly October night, the air crisp with the scent of fallen leaves. I had arrived at their home around 7 p.m., greeted by Mrs. Peterson, who was elegant and gracious, and her husband, Mr. Peterson, a stoic man who gave me strict instructions for taking care of their two children, Lucy 8, and Tommy, 6. The evening began innocently enough. We played board games and read bedtime stories, their laughter and innocent smiles putting me at ease. However, as the night grew darker, I couldn't ignore an unsettling feeling that had crept over me. The source of my unease became apparent when I glanced toward the corner of the living room. There, beneath the dim glow of a table lamp, stood a life-size clown statue. Its porcelain face was painted with a grotesque smile, its glassy eyes fixed in a haunting stare. The clown's colorful, oversized costume seemed to mockingly dance in the faint light. I shivered, wondering why anyone would have such a sinister figure in their home. As the hours passed, my unease turned into dread. I couldn't tear my eyes away from the clown statue, convinced that it was moving when I wasn't looking directly at it. Each time I blinked or turned my head, it seemed to shift position, drawing closer to the children, unable to bear it any longer. I decided to call the Petersons, explaining my discomfort and asking if I should move the statue. The phone call felt oddly tense, and my heart sank when Mrs. Peterson's voice quivered as she replied, "We don't own a clown statue, Emily. Get the children out of the house now." My heart raced as I hung up the phone. Panic surged through me as I rushed to the children's room, where Lucy and Tommy slept soundly. I scooped them up in my arms, their sleepy confusion turning to fear as I explained that we needed to leave the house immediately. As we hurried toward the front door, I dared one last glance back at the living room. The clown statue was no longer in the corner. It stood in the hallway, its painted smile contorted into a malevolent grin. Its eyes gleamed with an unnatural light, and I could swear I heard a sinister chuckle emanating from its painted lips. I fled the house, carrying the children to safety, their parents arriving home shortly afterward. The Petersons were pale and visibly shaken, thanking me for getting their children out of the house. They assured me they would take care of the situation, but they never explained the origin of the clown statue or how it had come to be in their home. To this day, I can't forget the chilling encounter with the clown statue in Hollowbrook House. The memory of that night continues to haunt my dreams, a vivid reminder that sometimes the most terrifying tales are the ones that blur the line between reality and the supernatural. The Haunting of the eBay Painting. My name is Jason, and I'm here to share a story that still sends shivers down my spine. It all began when I was 34 years old, living in a small coastal town in Oregon. I had always been drawn to the strange and unusual, so when I stumbled upon an eBay listing for a painting that was said to be cursed, my curiosity got the best of me. The painting in question was titled "The Hands Resist Him." It depicted a young boy standing in front of a glass door, his hand extended toward a pane that bore eerie, ghostly handprints. Behind the glass, shadowy figures seemed to move, casting long, ominous shadows. The description claimed that the painting was haunted, and it came with a warning from its previous owner, who had experienced a series of unsettling events before selling it. I thought it was nothing more than an elaborate hoax or a clever marketing ploy. But I was determined to differentiate myself from the skeptics and find out for myself. So, I placed a bid on the painting and won it. Little did I know that my life was about to take a terrifying turn. The painting arrived in a nondescript package a few days later. I carefully unwrapped it and hung it in my living room, thinking that its ominous beauty would make for an interesting conversation piece. That night, as I lay in bed, I heard faint whispers coming from the living room, like voices carried by a soft breeze. It was so faint that I dismissed it as my imagination, but over the next few days, strange things started happening. Objects would move on their own, lights would flicker, and a deep sense of dread settled over my home. I couldn't sleep, and my status-raising goals seemed futile in the face of this malevolent presence. One night, I decided to examine the painting more closely, using a magnifying glass to study the details. As I peered at the boy's face, his expression seemed to change, twisting into a look of sheer terror. And in that instant, I felt an icy hand grip my shoulder, sending shockwaves of fear through my body. I turned to find no one there, but the room was filled with an unnatural chill. The painting's glass door appeared to fog up, revealing a nightmarish world beyond it. Shadowy hands pressed against the glass, as if trying to break through. Panicking, I stumbled back and fled the room. The haunting escalated from there. I saw apparitions in the hallway at night, and the whispers grew louder, taunting me with incomprehensible words. The once peaceful coastal town had become a place of horror, as if the painting had unleashed a darkness that infected everything around it. Desperate and fearing for my life, I decided to rid myself of the cursed painting. I listed it back on eBay with a dire warning of its malevolence. A brave soul from another town bought it, and I shipped it off with a sense of relief, but the curse had taken its toll on me. I could feel the lingering presence of the painting even after it had left my home. And as I sit here, now 38 years old, I can't shake the feeling that something sinister still watches from the shadows, waiting for its next victim. So my friend, if you ever come across an eBay listing for The Hands Resist Him, heed my warning and stay far away. Some things are better left undifferentiated from the ordinary, for the pursuit of curiosity can lead you down a path of unimaginable terror. The Mothman's Omen. My name is Mark, and I never thought I'd find myself telling this story. It happened in the quiet town of Coldwater, a small, forgotten corner of West Virginia, known to few and home to fewer. I was 32 years old at the time, a regular guy leading a rather uneventful life. It was a brisk October evening, and the leaves had painted the town in fiery hues. Coldwater had a timeless quality, nestled along the banks of the winding Ohio River, far from the hustle and bustle of the big cities. It was the kind of place where nothing ever seemed to happen. My story begins at the Coldwater Diner, a local haunt where townsfolk gathered to chat about the mundane. I was sipping on a cup of coffee when Old Man Bill, a grey-bearded fixture at the diner, leaned in and whispered something that sent shivers down my spine. "Mark, have you ever heard of the Mothman?" he asked, his rheumy eyes glinting with an eerie excitement. I shook my head, thinking it was just another one of Bill's tall tales. But as he continued, I couldn't help but listen intently. Bill recounted the tale of a winged creature with glowing red eyes that appeared before disasters. According to him, the Mothman was an omen, a harbinger of impending doom. It had been decades since the infamous events in Point Pleasant, but the fear of the Mothman still lingered in the hearts of those who knew the legend. The story was chilling, but I brushed it off as the ramblings of an old man. Little did I know that this legend was about to become a terrifying reality. A few nights later, I was driving home along the winding road that led to my secluded cabin on the outskirts of Coldwater. The moon was full, casting an eerie glow on the dense forest that lined the road. As I rounded a bend, my headlights illuminated something that froze my blood. There, standing in the middle of the road, was a figure unlike anything I'd ever seen. It was tall and dark, with massive wings that seemed to stretch into eternity. Glowing red eyes stared into my soul, filling me with an overwhelming sense of dread. I slammed on the brakes, my heart pounding in my chest. The creature let out a blood-curdling screech, a sound that pierced the silence of the night. Panic took hold of me as I fumbled to reverse the car and speed away from the monstrous entity, but the Mothman was relentless. It pursued me, swooping down from the trees with a grace that defied its terrifying appearance. Its eyes never left me, burning like fiery beacons in the darkness. I reached my cabin and bolted inside, locking every door and window. I could hear the creature outside, its wings brushing against the walls, its malevolent presence filling the air. I was trapped, a helpless victim of an unspeakable horror. As the night wore on, the Mothman's presence loomed over my cabin like a shroud of doom. I knew then with chilling certainty that something terrible was about to happen. The legend was real, and I was living a nightmare. The next morning, the news broke. The cold water dam, which had stood for over a century, had collapsed, flooding the town and claiming many lives. The Mothman had been a warning, a foreboding of the tragedy that would befall us. I moved away from cold water, haunted by the memory of that night and the malevolent gaze of the Mothman. The legend had become all too real, a dark omen that I would never forget. So, my dear reader, take heed of the legends that linger in the shadows. They may be more real than you could ever imagine, waiting to reveal their horrifying truths when you least expect it.